Nintendo doesn't make new IPs very often, and when they do, they don't usually star Abraham Lincoln fighting aliens. During the 3DS and Wii U era, Nintendo was often criticized for playing it safe. Most of their output were sequels with established formulas. While these games were good, some even being exceptional, it was fair to criticize Nintendo for seemingly not taking risks. But in that sea of sequels emerged a game that might be contender for having the strangest premise for any Nintendo game. In 2015, Nintendo quietly released this game that had steampunk visuals, third-person combat, a unique art style, and the 16th President of the United States. But it disappeared almost immediately after launch. So what was it, and what happened to it? This is a look back at codenamed S.T.E.A.M, Nintendo's forgotten 3DS experiment. Codenamed S.T.E.A.M was created by Intelligent Systems, the makers of Fire Emblem. It was the brainchild of Paul Patrashku. Similar to Fire Emblem, it's a turn-based strategy game. As you can see, the game's visual style is a mixture of steampunk and the Silver Age of comic books, with art director Takako Sakai citing Jack Kirby as a direct influence. The back of the box even uses appropriate Comic Sans. Aliens have invaded an alternate history Earth, and it's up to the strike team eliminating the alien menace, or S.T.E.A.M, to stop them. So you choose a team of 4 to face the aliens head-on. S.T.E.A.M is literally the name of the game here. You have a S.T.E.A.M gauge that determines how many actions you can perform in a turn, and it's replenished by a certain amount at the start of each turn. Maps are made out of grids, and moving to another square costs S.T.E.A.M. Backing up to the square you first started at will restore your S.T.E.A.M. Attacking and other actions also take up S.T.E.A.M, usually ranging from 2 to sometimes 4. Knowing how to manage your S.T.E.A.M is critical, as the S.T.E.A.M you spend in one turn will affect how many actions you have in the next. You might as well use S.T.E.A.M when you have it, because it can be capped and will not go above a certain level. Sometimes you'll be able to find power-ups on the battlefield that can replenish your tanks, and it feels really good being able to cover a lot of ground, or attack multiple times in one turn. The roster of characters is very diverse in functionality. In fact, one of the most compelling aspects of the game is its cast, with the majority coming from classic Americana stories, or are at least American-adjacent characters. The lead is Henry Fleming, from the Red Badge of Courage. Other characters include folk hero John Henry, the Lion from Wizard of Oz, Tiger Lily from Peter Pan, Tom Sawyer from, well, you know, Queequeg from Moby Dick, Randolph Carter of H.P. Lovecraft stories, Scarecrow, also from Wizard of Oz, Califia from the Adventures of Esplandian, the Tin Man from you-know-where, and can you guess the final character? Dorothy, it's Dorothy. The one sort of original character is the Fox, who hails from Mexico. While not explicitly stated, she is probably based off of Zorro, as she shares many qualities with him. After all, Zorro is Spanish for fox. She likes dueling.
They have seen me. Now, we duel!
In the game states she fights for the poor. Most likely, Zorro was going to be an included character, but given the character's copyright status being questionable, the developers probably didn't want to take that risk, and pivoted to an original character instead, though the game might hint that she's related to Zorro in some manner. The strike team is led by none other than President Abraham Lincoln. Other non-playable characters include Queen Victoria, John Milton Hay, and Ulysses Grant. The game takes place at some ambiguous time in the past. Well, Henry and John talk about the war, which is probably the American Civil War, and the game seems to treat Lincoln as the sitting president, who is alive.
Despite the rumors.
Rumors? What does that mean? Exaggerations, okay, that's what they call it. And they refer to Grant as General Grant, but the year isn't really important and best not to think about. In this timeline, S.T.E.A.M has become a part of everyday life, with a lot of technological advances coming from it. They even have wireless communication and video monitors. The home base for the team is the impressive flying fortress, Lady Liberty. For this game, Nintendo invested in a high-profile voice cast that included many veteran voice and on-screen actors. This included Adam Baldwin, Michael Dorn, Gray Delisle, and Will Wheaton voicing Lincoln.
Agents, the 9th needs your help. Helmsman, set course for Boston.
Perhaps the thing the game is most well known for is its amiibo functionality. The amiibo for Marth, Ike, Robin, and Lucina can be scanned into the game. Doing so unlocks them as playable characters, which is really cool. While they don't take part in the story, they're otherwise fully integrated into the game. And they don't feel out of place, not really. And it should be noted that this is the first time Marth was given an English voice in a game.
I am ready!
Being played by Yuri Lowenthal. In conjunction with its art style, the game takes place within a comic book, and the cutscenes are stylized like a motion comic. Starting out in London, aliens suddenly attack, with Henry Fleming in the thick of it. He meets up with his old pal John, and the two are recruited by Lincoln to join codename S.T.E.A.M. Soon, the entire world is under attack, and the team sets off to stop the aliens. They meet the rest of the cast along the way, and Lincoln even does battle in his giant mech called Abe. Eventually, they learn that aliens are after the Necronomicon, which is kept underneath the White House. Yes, really. And the team deduces the aliens aim to revive the Great Shoggoth, a creature buried underneath Antarctica. Millions of years ago, the aliens left it underground, and now intend to use it to build a new empire on Earth. During an alien assault, Lincoln is knocked unconscious and is out of commission. The team chooses Henry to take his place. Dorothy arrives and bears grim news. The aliens have invaded Oz. They repel the aliens from the Emerald City and save Queen Ozma. Lincoln recovers, and Oz's engineers upgrade the Abe mech so it can drill underneath the Antarctic. Ozma gives the team special keys that will let them teleport from place to place. At the South Pole, they defeat the alien leader, but the Great Shoggoth still awakens. Lincoln fights it off in Abe and mortally wounds the monster, but with its last breath, the Shoggoth attempts to take the world down with it by freezing the entire planet. Lincoln sacrifices himself in order to stop the Shoggoth, and the alien menace has finally been thwarted. Many paid their respects to the 16th president, but at the bottom of the Antarctic is Lincoln's hat, along with one of the keys that Ozma gave the team. The comic ends with the back cover promising a new saga. The story strikes a fair balance between being cheesy and playing it straight. It's not an award-winning narrative by any means, but it's still fun. However, the game could have done more, as a lot of characters, like the Tin Man, barely get any screen time. And sometimes it feels like characters don't really interact with each other. It's there a little, especially with John and Tom.
When did you two become friends?
Friends?
But you kinda wish there was more camaraderie with the whole cast. Either way, it's still a great premise, and the game isn't too jokey, so the aliens actually come off as threatening. And if you couldn't tell, the aliens draw heavy inspiration from H.P. Lovecraft. In fact, the Great Shoggoth is a nod to Lovecraft's Shoggoth. The aliens' background is also close to the older ones in Lovecraft. They do incorporate some historical elements into the story, which is neat. Like, hey, he actually said that. I thought at first the characters were going to be more like their original counterparts, and the story would follow suit. For instance, since Henry's the lead, I assumed there would be a part where he deserts the team, like in the book, and then comes back and yada yada, but nah, that doesn't happen. It's still good though, owing to its comic book presentation and voice acting. Unlike Fire Emblem, codename S.T.E.A.M is played in the third person, similar to other strategy games like Valkyria Chronicles. There's a lot of different ways to aim. You can use the touchscreen, the face buttons, or the C-stick on new 3DS models. Despite the grid-based maps, characters aren't really tied to the squares, so you'll find yourself sneaking to the very edge of a square in order to get a shot in. There's a surprising amount of freedom to be had with its control scheme, and I sometimes forget I'm not playing a standard third-person shooter, but a strategy game. Friendly fire is a thing, however, so you need to aim carefully. Each character has their own unique weapon, and they can be utilized in many ways for different types of teams. Henry has a simple rifle, while the Fox is a sniper. Calithia uses grenades, Tom has a boxing glove, the Lion can pounce, and Queequeg has a robot penguin that explodes. Alright. Some characters are more support-oriented, with Tiger Lily being able to heal her allies, and the Tin Man can restore steam to his teammates. With the characters being so different, it allows for different types of strategies to be implemented. I like luring enemies in with Randolph's bait, and park them right next to the Scarecrow's stun bomb, for example. It works surprisingly well. You can also reserve your steam to possibly initiate an Overwatch attack during the enemy's turn. That means, if you have enough steam and an alien enters your line of sight, you'll automatically attack them and possibly stun them. However, enemies are also able to do this to you, so you have to be careful. Characters can also equip a sub-weapon that they can switch to in battle. There's no limit to these, every character can use every sub-weapon, though two characters can't use the same one at the same time. This allows for the support characters to have offensive weapons and vice versa. While some sub-weapons are just standard firing weapons, most are actually really creative, like deploying a sentry that will fight for you, a weapon that shoots banana peels for enemies to slip over, and a gun that drops supply crates. A demo for this game was released, and completing it unlocked an exclusive sub-weapon you could use in the full game. Boilers can also be equipped that raise a character's attack power, defense, health, their steam amount, and how much steam they regenerate. However, the Fire Emblem characters cannot equip sub-weapons or boilers. They come with two weapons they cannot swap out, along with their own boilers. While this does slightly limit their customability, they still have their own unique traits. Lucina's Nidhogg can pick off enemies from a distance, and it only uses 2 steam, while Marth can decimate enemy weak points with his rapier. though it should be noted that a few of their attacks are taken from other characters, just with a new coat of paint. Lucina has the lion's pounce, for example, and Robin has Califia's grenades. Once per stage, each character can perform a special, usually at the cost of no steam. Again, these have a wide range of utility, going from big explosions to other support actions, and they can help turn the tide of battle. Tom lays out landmines, Dorothy charges ahead in her slippers, and John does huge damage to enemies surrounding him. These also showcase a bit about the character's origin. For instance, you can see Moby Dick in Queequeg's special, which is a harpoon by the way. It adds a lot to the game's personality. Perhaps the strongest special is the Fox's. Hers restores her steam, but effectively ends her turn. However, the range in which she can initiate an Overwatch attack is increased, along with it doing more damage. When used at the right time, she can pick off many enemies at once. Of course, if no enemies come by, the special is wasted, but still, this is probably the best one in the game. But the Fire Emblem specials are wholeheartedly lifted from other characters. Marth's is Tiger Lily's, Ike's is John's, Robin's is Queequeg's, and Lucina's is Dorothy's. But they do have unique animations, and Fire Emblem music even plays. There's also an Easter egg with Marth's. Normally, the actual Fire Emblem appears in the background, but on rare occasions, Riss, the carrot from the first Fire Emblem, is shown instead. And a little jingle from that game will play.
Thank you, friend.
This makes sense since the special is a healing ability after all, and it's a lot of fun when you see him. Characters also have their own passive abilities. Some just raise the team's attack and defense, or being immune to stun. Others allow characters to perform certain actions, like John and Califia being able to break objects, or Tom and Dorothy being able to jump to higher places. Marth appears to be on the weaker side, as all of his weapons are closed range. This is an obvious downside for a shooter, but it's his unique ability that makes up for it. His, called Destiny, makes him totally immune to enemy Overwatch attacks. This makes him incredibly strong, as he's able to tank all incoming attacks. He's like a villain in a slasher movie. Nothing can slow him down, and he just keeps coming. So that's how you assemble a team. There's a team combo that can fit anyone's playstyle, and that's one of the best parts about Codename S.T.E.A.M, just how free-flowing it is. My favorite team is Marth, Lucina, the Fox, and Califia, but all the characters are pretty good. You can bull rush your way through a stage, or be more defensive. It's also really fun to be sneaky around the aliens and try to ambush them. There are 16 chapters, with most containing a handful of stages. Objectives are usually to reach a goal or defeat the enemy forces, but there are also unique objectives, like surviving for a certain number of turns, rescuing civilians, or escorting Queen Victoria to safety. You're able to tackle objectives in any way you please. The only limit is your steam tank and how far you can shoot. Otherwise, you can be very creative in how you complete a stage. For instance, these two extremely powerful foes are blocking the exit. I could find ways to take them down, or have Lucina use her special and sprint to the exit. Mission complete. That's really the great thing about this game. It gives you ways to cheese it or find clever solutions. You also don't have to worry about leveling characters up. They join as they are. After completing a stage, you can save and go to the next stage in the chapter. You're able to totally swap out your team in between stages, but you can't return to the main menu without restarting the entire chapter over. This is because of how the game tallies scores. Yes, there's a score system in place. Completing a chapter calculates a final score at the end, in the form of medals you accumulated throughout the stages. You can get medals by defeating enemies. There's also boxes of medals hidden throughout the maps. Getting more medals means getting a bigger score. Stages also have a turn target. Completing a stage within that target range will net you bonus medals, along with clearing with your entire squad still alive. A character falling in battle takes them out for the remainder of that stage, unless it's the Fire Emblem characters, in which death is somewhat permanent. And by permanent I mean you have to scan the amiibo back in. This was probably implemented so that you couldn't just go to your friend's house and scan their Ike amiibo into the game so you didn't have to buy your own. But to be fair, it is faithful to the Fire Emblem games and its permadeath system. It does make me think that the characters can die, and as a result I play extra carefully. I actually like thinking it's a permadeath game. It makes the game feel more rewarding when I clear with my entire squad alive. And also, like, the amiibo's all the way over there, I don't want to get up. But the game is lenient with saving. There's a quick save system in place, meaning it deletes the data once you load it back in. But you can permanently save at an hourglass. By saving here, you can restart from that save as many times as you want. There is no consequence. You can also restore health to one character, or restore and revive your entire squadron, but this costs a few hundred medals, and you have already had to have found those medals within the stages to spend them. However, the cost of reviving your squad is the same amount you would have gotten if you completed a stage without dying, so you don't really get a bonus by doing this. However, Fire Emblem characters are not revived at hourglasses, but even so, if they do die, you can restart a save or the entire map if need be, and they'll be just fine. Accumulating medals unlocks new sub-weapons, and each stage has a set of 3 gears to be found. By finding these gears, you unlock new boilers. So Codename S.T.E.A.M is very robust with its gameplay. However, there are a few annoyances. As said, characters aren't really tied to squares. The hitboxes are directly on the character models. But this can become frustrating, as the idle animations might have the aliens swaying a little bit, and this will affect when you can and can't hit your target. So sometimes you might resort to timing it with its animation, or it has to be extremely precise. You'll find yourself gently touching the camera to get your reticle right in line with the enemy. And when it's the alien's turn, you can't make out what they're doing very well. This is by design. You have to use your intuition to make out what the aliens are plotting. The game does try to automatically switch character viewpoints so you can get better hints, but a lot of the time they're just kinda sitting there, and you can't skip the aliens' actions. This was actually the biggest criticism the game received when it launched, and the game's reputation barely recovered from it. When the game first launched, the alien turns were not sped up at all. It took a very long time for aliens to make their move, and you just sat there. This caused review sites like GameSpot and Polygon to give the game extremely poor scores. Polygon called the game horrifically dull and gave it a 3.5 out of 10. Fortunately, Nintendo released a patch about a month later, where the aliens now move twice as fast on regular 3DS systems and 3 times faster on new 3DS. Polygon did update their score to accommodate, giving it a more favorable 6 out of 10, though other review sites did not. The maps are really well designed. Some are a bit more constrained, while others are sprawling. Terrain can be blown away and used to attack aliens, but there are also traps set for you, so you have to be careful. Some stages you can occupy tanks and gun turrets to spice things up. 3 times in the story, you take control of Lincoln in his Abe mech and fight off super-sized aliens, including the Shoggoth. This is played in the first person and are fun distractions, but don't have much to them. To be honest, sometimes the control scheme is annoying. There's a quick dodge command done by quickly flicking the circle pad, but it's very inconsistent, and it only seems to work when I don't want it to, and it doesn't work when I do. It's one of those. But still, it's really amusing being able to play as Lincoln this way. It's delightfully cheesy.
Executive decision!
There's a lot to see within the stages that just adds to the steampunk world, and there's plenty of detail in the environments, like the Buckingham Palace stage having accurate furniture. It's the little things, you know? Signs can be read that are superfluous, but take humorous jabs about Codename S.T.E.A.M's world, even name-dropping other historical figures. They can be quite amusing, and shows that somebody on the development team had a sense of humor. There's even a Donkey Kong reference. The music is also really good, perfectly fitting the aesthetics of the game. It can really get you energized. The game even has its own patriotic song.
Citizens, look around. Can you hear that fearsome sound? There's a menace that's encroaching, something aliens approaching. Join the team that goes by codename S.T.E.A.M.
If you use the Fire Emblem characters, you might hear remixed themes from the series. And on the title screen, a rocking version of the main Fire Emblem theme will play. Completing the game unlocks alternate modes to play the game. In Blind Eye, you have to fight without the grid, enemy health bars, and your remaining steam visible, so you basically have to feel things out. In No Return, every decision matters. Once you take a step, your steam will not refill when you backtrack. And then there's Merciless Mode, where the enemies are far stronger. A metal multiplier is applied when playing these, so there is some incentive to try them out. Your team also wears different colored outfits. When you're not in battle, a small gallery mode is available, where Milton will give you background information on each character. There's also an enemy bestiary written by Randolph. There's even more references to the Lovecraft lore here. And when you beat the game, you can go back and view the cutscenes and listen to music. An Abe Gauntlet is also unlocked upon beating the game, where you take on the 3 Abe bosses and try to get through 18 stages without running out of health. Kinda like a survival mode in a fighting game. And finally, if you obtain 100,000 medals, you unlock the secret character, Stovepipe, who is basically the Abe mech, just playable in the normal game. But Stovepipe is probably the best character, due to its high health, steam, and power. He's actually a pretty cool character. Okay, so there's one thing I noticed that I don't think anyone else has. When you first play the game, in the cutscenes, Califia is wearing her normal outfit, the outfit she wears in-game. But after you beat the game and rewatch the cutscenes in the gallery menu, Califia's outfit is entirely different. What's with that? This alternate outfit actually matches what she's wearing in her in-game portrait and her official art. So was this meant to be the original outfit, but they changed it later on? Actually, she always wears this outfit in the final cutscene, regardless if you watch it in the gallery or not. So I think what happens is, after you beat the Shoggoth, it triggers something in the cutscenes to swap her outfits. Is this a glitch or an Easter egg? I don't know. A versus mode is also available. Online play was a thing, but since it was shut down in 2024 with the rest of the 3DS titles, the only option left now is local wireless. There are 3 modes: Deathmatch, Metal Battle, and Abe Battle. Deathmatch is the main event here. Each player's turn is limited to just 1 minute, and there's a turn cap. There are unique stages to this mode, and they're okay. Definitely more suited to a versus mode than story mode. Metal Battle is exactly what it sounds like. You try to collect more medals than the other player. Taking out a member of the opposing team will make them drop medals, so there is some incentive for combat. These modes also have exclusive power-ups you can find around the stages. And Ape Battle is, well, fighting each other in apes. When there was online play, you could join tournaments made by Nintendo, and winners got special titles. These tournaments usually had special conditions to them, like limiting weapons or characters. Each time you enter Versus mode, you have to scan in your Fire Emblem amiibo. Once you exit this mode, they're gone from Versus. Okie dokie. Oh, and there is Street Pass functionality, but it's incredibly limited. It's just sharing leaderboard scores with another player. Each week, you'll receive bonus medals, depending on how you fared compared to your Street Pass matches. Thanks. And that was codenamed S.T.E.A.M. All things considered, this is a very different Nintendo title. The production value of the game is quite high, which is unusual for a Nintendo game not starring established characters. Despite this, codenamed S.T.E.A.M had a rocky pre-release strategy. While Nintendo isn't known for their high P&A spend, codenamed S.T.E.A.M still seemed low priority. The game was revealed at E3 2014, but not during the actual Nintendo presentation, rather a developer roundtable later on, which is cool and all, but there was no actual trailer. It was then only sporadically shown in Nintendo Directs until its March 2015 release. They had Will Wheaton promoted a little bit, but other than that was basically it. Nintendo never released concrete numbers, but just going off by how seldom the game has been mentioned over the past decade, it's probably safe to assume the game didn't sell all too well. It had a brutal launch in Japan, selling less than 2,000 physical units in its first week. But codenamed S.T.E.A.M did have something of a legacy. In the Fire Emblem 25th Anniversary staff book, art director Takako Sakai drew the Shadow Dragon cast in the codenamed S.T.E.A.M style. And one of the game's directors, Tsutomu Tei, also drew an image of the 4 Fire Emblem characters as a nod to codenamed S.T.E.A.M. Sakai would also draw the Fire Emblem character Arthur in codenamed S.T.E.A.M style for the trading card game Fire Emblem Cypher, and would do so again for the mobile game Fire Emblem Heroes. In Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Henry appears as a spirit and is represented by Captain Falcon for his fight, with a lot of shooting items spawning. And the music track, Trouble Brewing 2, received a new remix just for Smash, and can be used on any of the designated other stages. 3 of codenamed S.T.E.A.M's Fire Emblem tracks also made their way into Ultimate. Codenamed S.T.E.A.M is a true hidden gem. It's unfortunate the game didn't really get a chance to shine, because the game is just so unique and bizarre. I do wonder what would have been next if the game did well and they made a sequel. I mean, the game had 2 different teases at the end, so I think they were kind of hoping for a sequel. It makes me wonder about other characters they could have included in a new game. Like, I don't know, Chester Arthur, the Marx Brothers, Pollyanna, I don't know, anybody. In the end, I think it's fair to say the game falls somewhere in between intuitive and clunky. A lot of people can probably understand the game the moment they start playing. And while those players can adapt to the game's quirks, I can't blame others for being put off by them. Even so, the strongest aspect of the game is its presentation and concept. It was great to see both Intelligent Systems and Nintendo try something new, and running wild with its premise. In a way, this game does prove Nintendo can still be creative without relying on their tried and true franchises. If you think it looks remotely interesting, I would suggest giving it a shot. After all, Abraham Lincoln wants you for codenamed S.T.E.A.M.
Everyone gather round. Do you hear hear that mighty sound. A cheer through all the nations for Honest Abe sensations. Codename S.T.E.A.M, Abe Lincoln's fighting team. Boiling with pride, we're at their side against the monster menace. Codename S.T.E.A.M, let's hear it for the team. They'll take command until they've freed our land. Codename S.T.E.A.M, Codename S.T.E.A.M, here to save the day. Heroes hand in hand, marching across the land. Here comes Codename S.T.E.A.M.